Hello, welcome back to another episode of D54. I'm Amit and I am so happy. I'm so glad and I'm privileged to be joined by Melanie from the Paradesi Review, Paradesi channel. Welcome to the show officially because you've been on it before, but this is the first time I'm introducing you.
I think this is the first time we've been just the two of us. We had Kathy
Correct.
on doing the trailer reaction to Guns and
That's
Gulags.
right.
But no,
Yep.
I'm so happy to be on your channel, and I said this to you privately, but I so wished when I first started watching Malayalam films that there had been an English language channel devoted to Malayalam cinema because oh gosh, it was a struggle
Mm,
at the beginning because it was kind of like, where do I go next? What do I watch next? Like I was just kind of
yes,
fumbling around with it. So I mean, my
definitely.
own viewers kind of gave me clues, but there's something really special about Malayalam cinema, and so definitely worthy of an entire channel devoted
Correct.
to the films of this industry.
No, definitely right. It's a pretty special industry as we're sort of finding out more and more, and it's a very sort of deep industry. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
there's a lot to it, despite being probably one of the smaller industries out there compared to especially Tamil or Bollywood and these massive sort of monster industries with a bigger population and bigger fan base and all that. But there's something special about this industry.
yeah.
But for the 1% of people that haven't seen your channel or know about it, you can just tell us a little bit about Paradesi reviews and what you sort of do there. And you've been doing it for so long. So you had your 6th
Yeah,
anniversary recently.
I just had my 6 year anniversary of the channel. So I do not I cover most of the major industries of Indian cinema. So I personally started watching Hindi films, then Bahubali got me into Telugu, Mani
Mm.
Ratnam got me
Ah.
um, into Tamil films, and Dulker got me into Malayalam.
Ah,
Bangalore Days and
yeah.
Ustad Hotels were my first Malayalam films, but
Yeah.
and then I never looked back. but
Yeah.
um, so I cover, I mean, and also some Kannada films. You know, they
Mm.
don't often play in the United States, but some of the
Yeah.
biggest ones, like obviously the KGF films,
Yeah.
play in theaters in the U.S., but they are harder to find. But anyway, so
Correct.
and Malayalam films can be difficult to find in the United
Mm.
States as well. Sometimes I have to wait for the films to come on streaming, and this was an
Yeah.
example of one that I didn't wasn't able to watch
Yes.
until it came. It's playing on Hulu in the United States, which I think is Disney, Hotstar, whatever
Mhm.
in India. So, but anyway, I there's something special about Malayalam cinema. I mean, I like all different kinds, but there's something special about it. It's like
Definitely.
independent cinema in the United States, you know, or offshoot of
Mm.
Hollywood, the kind of films that you would see at Sundance Film Festival or something like that. So such
Yeah.
interesting, incredible scripts. And this one that we're going to talk
Mhm.
about today would definitely apply. Now, I will say
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
being a dark comedy, it's
Okay.
harder for an
Yeah.
outsider like me who doesn't speak the language. And there's some cultural things that I get, but I'm sure
Mhm.
if I had been sitting in an audience filled with Malayalam speakers, that they would have been laughing a lot more times
Yeah.
than I was because I think some of the jokes just went over my head. so
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. I think it's one I came in pretty blind. Like I don't think I read a synopsis. I basically just saw the poster design and thought, okay, Basil Joseph. I thought,
yeah,
okay, it's probably a comedy. Because I think that's sort of what he does. I'm not really sure. I can't really make out what he is as an actor at this stage. And this was the first time I'm seeing him in a full fledged lead
yeah,
role. So it
right,
sort of came in. I had not seen too much of Darshana, but the little bit I had seen, I had always liked her.
yeah,
Thought she was pretty strong performances, and we'll touch on some of the performances a little bit later. But I think to start with, like this movie, like the concept itself, you mentioned dark comedy. That's really interesting, and that's a really interesting way to look at it because when I think of dark comedy in Malayalam cinema, I would think, the obvious one for me is Mukundununi Associates, which is definitely more of a. I'm not sure if you've seen that one, but that's
I don't think I
fantastic.
know.
Oh, you have to watch that one. Great movie. That is a dark comedy done perfectly. But this movie is like kind of like they insert comedy into an extremely like sensitive matter, which I would never put comedy into. But
Yeah,
at times, I
yeah,
think that leaves it open for criticism a lot. But I also sort of applaud them
Yeah.
was sort of doing something which is extremely, dangerous, I would say, in some ways, and controversial. Because if you're going to get the point across what you're trying to get, sometimes a super serious movie is really hard to get the
Hmm.
buy-in from, the masses. So putting in
Yes.
a bit of comedy here and there sort of helps people accept it more and makes it more watchable. Because we're going to talk
Yeah.
about The Great Indian Kitchen. That's a movie
Yeah.
that comes to mind, especially in the first half.
Absolutely.
I was a bit worried. The first half an hour, I was like, is this another Great Indian Kitchen? Are we just going to have another one of those? And then it sort of flips it around and it becomes like, okay, it's taking its own path. But what do you think about the whole mixing of these two sort of, I guess, genres or topics, I guess? How do you find that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that sometimes it can be easier to discuss a really sensitive subject and get a wider audience willing to watch your film if you do use
Mm.
humor. But I do agree that sometimes it went way up to a line that I wouldn't have, if
Yeah.
I was the filmmaker, I don't know. But I understand. I mean, I do say there's great intentions behind the
Mm.
message of the film. And I did watch it. This is the second time for me watching it. And I
Yeah.
did note that the very opening scene of the film is of the open fire cooking
Mm.
that Jaya's mother is doing in the home. And so, I mean, I think it was her mother. Was it somebody is doing in the home?
Yeah,
And so,
somebody.
to me, I felt like, okay, in a way, they are purposely tying this to the Great Indian Kitchen film
Yeah, interesting.
because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was such an absolutely key thing that the men in the household insisted that the rice and other things be cooked on an open fire and not with
Yeah.
a modern appliance like a rice cooker. So,
Yeah.
um, and this director Vipin Das, I'm not sure that I have seen his other films, but
Uh,
evidently the previous project that he did, he thought would be the very last project that he ever did, and he was going to retire. And then the
mm.
idea for this came, and again, I seriously wonder if it's in a way a response to Great Indian Kitchen. Um,
Yes.
but I think sometimes until you flip the narrative, sometimes people can't really hear the message, right? They just, you can't necessarily preach to people to get them to hear it. And so sometimes humor can really give you that light bulb, oh, kind of
Hmm.
moment, right, for the
Yeah.
audience. And a recent film that did that was Barbie. It's all about
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
all about the
Exactly.
patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was sitting in the theater with these little girls and wondering, are they getting it? But then I
Mm.
saw so many messages of people saying, okay, the message of the film was received because my 10-year-old came out saying, what's the patriarchy?
Wow.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And so until you see how the worlds are flipped in
Mm.
Barbie, like you don't really get it, right? And so I
Yeah.
feel
Interesting.
like in the same with this film showing, I think it's mostly speaking in a male audience. However,
Yeah.
it's not only the men in this film who let Jaya down
Yeah.
when she speaks up about the domestic abuse. Her husband is
Yeah.
slapping her. Oh, it becomes this routine. He
Yeah.
gets mad about something at the dinner table. He slaps her. Then he takes her to the movie. Then he takes her out to
Yeah.
dinner to the restaurant where he doesn't let her order. Like it's just like you can see the bored look on her face. Like here we go again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same thing, right?
Rinse and
But
repeat.
until everything, it's her. She speaks out to her family. Her father pushes her off. Her
Yeah.
mother says, well, he only hit you one time. You just need to stay. Like everyone around her, no one is listening to her. No one is doing anything to intervene. And she's left in this horrible situation. And it's only when everything is flipped and everyone is assuming her husband is the one that's being abused because he confronts her and she does
Yeah.
knock him down in spectacular
Correct.
fashion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I was waiting for that first kick because this time I knew it was coming, right?
Yeah.
When it happened, I literally paused and I'm like, how far are we in the film? Because this
That's
film is,
funny.
I don't know, about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. It's
Yes.
not in, it happens 45 minutes in. So we get 45
Correct.
minutes of some pretty bad
Yeah.
stuff happening to this
Mm-hmm.
poor woman. And
Definitely.
I, again, like, it adds to the humor that it's Basil Joseph, like this. Okay, I
Correct.
love you, but you're short of stature, right? There's something about it that him being so small that
Correct.
adds to the humor of it, right? That he is such a
Definitely.
bully to
Hmm.
everyone in his household, not to his mother, to his sister, not just to his wife. But
Correct.
and things that I noticed, like she comes back from the wedding and she's looking around the,
Oh yeah.
she sees cracked
Broken
glass.
house.
She sees the TV remote held together with rubber bands, like
Yes, yes. Broken chairs.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
so
It's
many
not. It's
things,
yeah,
noticing things the second time. So
yeah. I don't know. I think what the movie does well, I think, is really highlights and almost at times like overemphasizes the isolation that Jaya is in.
yeah,
And like it's not like I think the movie does a good job of sort of it is a sort of social commentary as well and sort of talks about that as well. It is a situation that
absolutely.
I think a lot of women in India sort of face having to sort of get married. The whole movie starts with, I mean, it's an interesting start as well because she wants to be educated and she falls in love with this professor, and that's a really interesting setup as well
Right,
because we sort of see him as sort of this person who's preaching everything and he sounds like he's a good person, but we find out behind closed doors he's just the same as all the other men in the movie.
right, right.
Which I think
If
was
not
interesting.
worse in some ways, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And the fact that it's played by Varghese just adds to it, right?
Hmm.
Again,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
someone that we're used to seeing in very positive roles,
Correct.
and then to see the flip of like, oh no, this is the way he really is. Like he's,
Correct.
we're like, of course she's looking like hard eyes at him. Like he's
Hmm.
saying all the things that she wants to hear. He's so great, right? And then he's like,
Yeah.
who told you you could change your Facebook profile picture?
Uh-huh.
What?
Yeah, yeah. And the response was just to be response was just to be slapped. That's the first of many which she receives. But yeah, it honestly the first half is it's a pretty hard watch, the first half, to see
So
like
hard.
they don't hold back on sort of what
No.
they show us like at all, which is surprising because when you sort of read the description, you sort of read comedy and you're like, okay, it's not going to be too dark, is it? And then you sort of find out soon enough that wait, it is actually just really dark at sometimes when it's repetitive. And I think like the cinematic choice or directional choice to sort of have that repetition motion, I thought was really effective because you just got to see
Absolutely.
it's a non-continuous, it's just a cycle that doesn't stop.
Right.
As you sort of mentioned, slap, take her out, make her feel better. Next instance, throw a cup. Some heartbreaking scenes when she makes him food, and he basically is so angry that he just dismisses it straight away and destroys it. And then she confronts him and says, "This is not right," and then she gets slapped. So there's nothing that she has going for her. So again,
Right.
they put her. It's a challenging position that they've put her in. And the movie does a good job, I think, of mostly basically showing us that journey and how isolated it is. I don't know if it was felt a little bit sometimes unbalanced and a little bit unreal, but one thing I was appreciative of was like basically they didn't make it like only the men are the bad guys. For instance, it's the whole society.
Absolutely.
That's one thing that I
Absolutely.
was like, is it just going to be like all the guys are going to be like this? But no, it's not. Like, because Basil Joseph starts off with some hope. It's like, hey, he says you can study, and it's like, all right, maybe this is going to be a bit different. But then we find out it's not just him; it's the father, it's the uncle, it's the brother, it's the mother, it's the in-laws, it's everybody who's like this. So
Everyone.
it's just so it's like a hard movie to watch. But let's get into some of the more funner stuff because after the sort of first 45 minutes or whatever it is, it definitely takes a flip. And I will say it's sort of a drama slash comedy slash martial arts film because there is there is some serious martial arts in this movie. And I mean that scene, I just want to talk about that scene and how good it was. It just comes out of nowhere, and the
Yeah.
I don't know, like it could be done in so many ways, but the way she blocks and you're like, wait, what happened? And then it's just like a kick, and the way he's stuck in between, and she just walks off and she still does her duties. Perfect. Like she's like, okay, I've done that now. Let me continue. And he's just left like, what do I do here? So
Like
humiliated.
he's almost like that didn't really happen.
No. And it follows it up pretty well. Then he goes to see his he goes to the Ayurveda clinic and he asks them like, what can I do? I have a pain in my belly. They say it might be internal bleeding. The comedy
I
then
know, well,
starts
like
and I think
when his employees, because they know
yeah.
their boss. That was what I was really like. The
Yeah.
employees are really concerned that he has permanently injured his wife
Yeah,
because he mentions
that's
kick,
right.
and so of course they assume he has
Yeah,
kicked her in the abdomen,
exactly.
and they're just like, "Listen, I know somebody that died from that. You better take her to the
Yeah, yeah.
hospital. You better do the like everything that they're saying." Is making his mind whirl with, oh my god, like I
Mm,
could have internal injuries, I could be like I can barely move, but oh my god, what if I
correct.
could die from this? But
Yeah.
it's because everyone just assumes he's the one that could have done this to
Correct.
her. It's totally believable to everyone around him because they
Definitely.
know him. Yeah.
Definitely right. Yeah, yeah. So I think while the first half is very serious in its tone, the second half definitely takes a lighter tone. And I think it mostly does it pretty well to sort of make us shift from that because then the controversies stop and we sort of just see his path to sort of redemption, kind of, to try and I guess fight against her back,
Yeah.
like he's trying to become the same person he was. It's a weird situation that
But
it
he's
puts us in.
plotting. He's plotting with his, I guess it's his cousin,
Is
to
yeah
to
his
get her
yeah
pregnant.
yeah oh boy
Because then he can think, okay, then she'll be barefoot and pregnant, and they have to raise my kids, and I'm not going to be bothered with this anymore. She'll be stuck.
yeah. I think that's more sort of the third act. I think the second act is him just trying to learn kung fu, which is a
Yes,
whole learn karate, which is a whole like another
and as he's
series in
piecing
itself.
together,
Yep.
all of these marks on the wall were from her practicing in the bathroom. Wait a minute, look at that dent in the
Yep.
cupboard.
Yep.
What?
Exactly. And I've got to give it up to Basil Joseph. Pretty, especially in the he does a good job of sort of playing a pretty versatile character. Because I was thinking at the time when watching this, I'm like, okay, he's turning into a bad guy, and I was thinking, okay, maybe Basil Joseph doesn't have the chops to be able to do anything else, so this just made him one dimensional. But I really appreciated them going, no, you know what, let's give you a challenge here, and actually play this bit of comedic role. He's not the smartest, not the brightest bulb in
No.
the deck, so he's sort of not the best. Can't put things together. He's sort of told that over and over again. Like he's not the smartest guy, but he's good natured. That's what they keep telling us. But I don't know how much of that is true.
Right.
But yeah, it's just hilarious. It's dynamic to try and learn. And I have to say that second kung fu fight, the second karate fight when they're trying to
Epic.
go at it, it's so good. It's such a it's actually and yeah, again, like Darshana as well. I'm not sure if she did her own stunts or not, but if she did, I mean
I
her
think
form was pretty good.
I think she may have, and it was incredible.
It was really
It
good.
really was.
So, I want to ask you a question because obviously I'm really glad I'm talking about yourself specifically about this movie. Obviously, we're getting a great perspective with the female perspective. How do you think they tackle the? Because the first two sort of show us, female oppression and then female, I guess, liberation, I guess, in a way through
Right.
that, and it's done through like action. How did you feel towards that, especially the first two acts? The third one goes. I want to talk about the
Well,
third one separately because the third act is a little bit to me a bit strange where they sort of go to, but the first
I
two,
mean, I felt like it was one thing to block his slaps, but
yeah.
that was just the beginning of her journey of escape because
Mm.
there's so many instances of domestic violence about
Mm.
it doesn't always have to be physical. It can be emotional abuse or just
Yes.
controlling someone, like the fact that he wouldn't let her go to school and was just belittling her. She wasn't allowed because of the wedding, and her parents, she never finished her schooling, so then there were so many avenues that were closed to her. What I did
Mm.
notice in seeing the second time is that at the first time that the bride and groom meet, it's her brother that speaks up and
Yes.
says, well, she wants to go continue her schooling. Is she going to be able to do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
He's the one that brings that up. And it's
Correct.
her brother that saves her because after she has this miscarriage,
Yep.
um, because literally you're thinking, oh my God, if she's pregnant, she's really stuck, right? Like, and so
Yes.
she refused, like her parents are disowning her because she wants to leave her husband over the violence, and she literally has no place to go, and her brother comes up and finds her just at a bus stop. Like she really doesn't know what to do, but she can't go back.
Yeah. Correct.
And knowing that her husband plotted to get her pregnant, all of that sweet talk, all of that was just a lie to just
Correct.
trap her. And so it's her brother that tries with her to figure out, okay, because she can't doesn't have the degree to be able to get certain jobs. What could she do? Well, she could start a small business. And again,
Mm.
seeing the second time, you see the setup of this other
Yeah.
chicken farmer trying to sell his business to Basil Joseph's character,
Yeah.
and Basil Joseph isn't interested and talks so much about the price of chickens that she
Yeah.
can't help but like absorb all this knowledge about
Uh-huh.
undercutting prices in business. So it's like, how can she really truly get freedom? She has to have some way to make money. She has
Mm.
to have some way to survive. and it's also the ultimate revenge, right? The only
Exactly.
thing, his true marriage, his true love is his chicken business,
It's chicken farm. Yep.
his chicken farm. And if she can undercut that and take that
Mm.
joy away from him, besides kicking him in the stomach,
Yeah.
that is the real gut punch.
Yeah.
Is
Exactly.
is is her standing on her own 2 feet, not needing him, and being able to carry on with her own life. So in
Yeah.
Great Indian Kitchen, the ending there, we see her. She always wanted to be a dancer. We get to
Yep.
see a choreographer. We get to see her, put on this incredible dance performance with the
Yes.
troupe. So we see that freedom, and the freedom here is, again, that she finds a way to make her own living and to be able to live on her own,
Correct.
separate, not dependent on her parents either, and have to go back to that nightmare scenario because it wasn't so great living at home either. So
No.
to me, that was essentially it. That what's the ultimate revenge? Not revenge is not just the physical violence; it's the
Yeah. Exactly.
freedom
Right.
and just the indifference. Like, fine, I'll sign this paper. I'm divorced. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
What's the
Exactly.
what are you selling chicken for? 125? Oh, I'm selling it for
Yeah. Yeah.
115.
10.
Bye.
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's really that's sort of a great summary of sort of how this sort of played out. And I really appreciate that. That's awesome. But what I think the other thing it does really well in terms of that revenge, is that definitely is true to who she is, because her whole thing was she's smart. Like
Yeah,
they show us that over and
exactly.
over again about how they can't, I think the uncle can't do maths, and they're all like struggling about how many times she got slapped over the course of a year, and
Right.
40 years is like 2,000 slaps or something like that. And they're like, do you want me to slap that many times to try to put together? And they're all just left like struck, like, we don't know, like, we're just gonna act like,
Right.
we're just gonna
Right.
act dumb here, and not really have the answers for this. So she's obviously the smartest person in the room, despite the fact, due to the oppression that she's gone through from her family, um, telling her, like, you have to get married straight away no matter what. Don't do your studies. And at the start, she wants to study somewhere else, and she's like, they're saying, no, you can't study there, like, we'll find you somewhere close by. And we
Right.
see the college, it's not a fancy college, it's like a house, or not even a house, it's like a hut.
The shack.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So she's really compromised everything there, but despite of that, she's still been able to find a way to become, successful. So I did really appreciate that side of things, how they sort of came back with revenge through who she was. The criticism I have a little bit in the third act was a bit like, and maybe I'll be interested to hear your opinion on this. Like, she kind of like, she's always smarter. I don't know how Basil Joseph was able to deceive her so easily, like,
Mhm.
to do that. Like,
I think.
he
I
seemed
mean,
somebody
I
that
do
was,
think.
yeah,
I do think when you're in a situation like that,
yeah,
it's sort of like, I don't know what the right word would be, like Stockholm syndrome or whatever. If he
yes,
started, she felt like, okay, I took a stand for myself. Now maybe we can have a new phase to our relationship. Like, she hadn't
mhm,
completely given up on the marriage. She hadn't walked out. It was only when she realized all of that sweet talk, all of that wanting to be closer to her was really just to get her pregnant. It was all a plan. That, I mean, like, she
yeah,
literally falls over, like literally faints, and then has a miscarriage from the shock of,
yeah,
he deceived me. He was just playing me. He doesn't sincerely feel that to me. He's just playing me. And
correct.
that's the moment that she's like, I'm done. I'm not going back. So she was
No,
willing to be like, okay, let's see if you can change. I'm going to block you trying to hit me. She didn't walk out at that point. It was
mhm,
only when she realized any feelings he was showing towards her was, again, just fake. It was not sincere.
no,
So, and there was just no redemption for him in her eyes at that point.
yeah,
So, I mean, I
definitely.
love how even the female divorce judge is
Yep.
like, "No, why don't you guys just get counseling and you can work it out?"
Uh-huh.
And then Basil
Yeah,
Joseph's character reveals what a jerk he is in the courtroom, and the judge is like,
exactly.
"Oh, really? Oh,
No,
is this how
no,
he
he's
is at
exposed.
home?
Yeah.
Okay."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he's really exposed on all sides, because he keeps turning around to his brother to ask him sort of what's happening, and you just sort of see how incompetent he is, and he's not able to sort of do anything. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that scene was also great when the revelation comes out. When I mean, again, he's so dumb. He plays the audio like on loud to let her hear. He's a
Right,
product. It's his own demise, basically.
right.
But that scene
But
itself was really
actually,
good.
when you think about the other thing that really brings him down, he was the one that set up the phone camera because he
Yeah, that's
assumed he was going to beat her ass, and
that's right.
therefore he was going to prove.
That's right.
And so taking his phone into I guess it was a mobile repair shop. It wasn't that
No,
Jaya released that video and tried to
no,
humiliate him. It's because he still had it on his phone and he
exactly.
had never deleted it. That it then it was released and went viral. So it was
Correct.
again his own fault, and he was the one that
Yeah, yeah.
confronted her. It wasn't like she just decided to kick him across the
Mm,
room and break the aquarium just for grins. It was because he's
no.
like, "Oh, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you I can also do martial arts."
Yep, 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 yep. Exactly.
You
Yeah,
know.
it's all his own fault basically. So yeah, she didn't have to. Jaya didn't have to even do too much to really even get past it. Yeah, it's really interesting. I do want to talk a little bit about because I think we talked about that performances quite a bit, but I just want to give you a little appreciation for. I didn't expect this from Basil Joseph, to be honest. Like I didn't expect him to. That we've talked about how
Exactly.
much he's
Me
done.
neither.
Um, like he's able to go through these emotions so well. He played a great lead, and yeah, this movie, as I said, was
Yeah.
I mean, a huge commercial success, and that's mostly because it was basically on the backs of just Basil Joseph and Darshana. I mean, there are a few other
Yeah.
cameos, but I didn't recognize too many other faces, except for
Right.
the professor you mentioned earlier, who I've seen here and there. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's not a huge cast. It's obviously very
No.
low budget. I think it was made on
Right.
like 5 crore and made like a lot of money from that. So really well done. But what do you think of his ability to sort of be a lead actor? I'm really excited to see him in more
I
sort of prominent roles.
he's okay. So first of all, we should just say the man is an amazing director.
Oh,
Okay.
he is. Yes,
And
yes, exactly.
I think literally he is doing a lot of these projects to make money to get his next project done. All right.
Minimally
So
too.
it's not that his goal, I think, is to be this great actor. I think
No,
it's all towards getting more of his own films made, having the money to do that. It also could be
correct.
favors for friends, but I agree with you. I've seen him, like play the judge in another movie,
Yeah,
or it's
Joji.
just like sort of like just a little walk-on, small, very small supporting role.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine, but I was not expecting number one for him to be so good. I just was not
yeah.
expecting. I was really stunned. I agree
Oh.
with you. I've seen Darshana in other roles, and so I knew she would be good. But
Mm.
Basil Joseph was the one that really blew me away with his comedy chops, with just everything. Like he was just
Yeah,
first of all, I was just like, how can he be so cruel in the beginning? Like, how does he make us hate him so
yeah.
much? We hate
Exactly.
him, you
Yes,
know?
that's very true. No, no, it's very true because like we talked about, the great in the kitchen, and we know Siraj, like one of the such a talented actor, and he can sort of do it all. So it's not really a surprise for him to play that kind of he has the ability to play a really
Right,
evil kind of person as well
right,
and be contained at the same time. But Basil Joseph, I didn't expect him to. Yeah, the first part really shocked me because I think the comedy just to me just I don't know, maybe he just looks like he's a comedian. I don't know. There's something about him.
right, right,
He feels like he can sort of do good delivery or have some quirky comedy here and there, or
right.
fall over or do something like that. But the time when he's sort of converting from sort of being a bit mysterious to being like this guy's full evil, like during the first 45 minutes, as you mentioned, you really dislike this guy, and I didn't know I would ever get there with him, and then sort
Right,
of
his
see his
sweet little
progression.
face, his sweet little
I know,
face.
yeah, he
And
doesn't.
that's what suckers Jaya in too, right?
That's
Because
right.
when they
Yes,
have
yes.
the families meeting and she sees him and she's like, he's so cute and he's just kind of
Uh,
clueless, just talking about his chicken farm. And she's like, okay, like if I
yeah,
have to marry somebody, if my parents are forcing me to just get married because of this whole scandal thing with the professor, which
correct.
was stupid, but
Yes,
if she's like, okay, this guy looks like he's a sweet guy because he gives you that look. He just has that sweet look. And
definitely.
then she moves, and then it's hell. Then we have half an hour
No,
of hell for her.
definitely.
Absolute hell.
It's definitely a surprise because he comes off as more at the side. The first impression of him is like I don't get the impression that he's like a bad person. I get the more of impression that he's a bit naive, maybe like a
Yes.
smartest person, but he's not evil. So for him to transform to his performance and go through so many different facets of this, to be like naive to then pure evil to then be, kind of an idiot again, try to learn kung
Yeah.
fu, do a little fight scene, do some comedy. His physical comedy was also really good in this, I felt, as well. Like, I
Absolutely. Oh
mean,
my God, like the snake
yeah.
outside of the window, that whole scene.
Yes, yes.
He's trying to make the moves on her, and then all of a
Correct.
sudden he just
Yeah.
screams, and everybody in the
Yeah,
household
yeah,
runs
yeah.
out. And his mom's like, "All right, fine, you just come sleep with me tonight. I can tell that you
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah,
sleep
yeah.
alone."
No, no, like a kid. So yeah, I really give him a lot of props. And again, on the other side, just to sort of balance that out, Darshana, I thought did. I mean, Darshana, I've not seen too much of, but the few things I have seen of her, like her ability to convey the emotions, especially
Yeah,
like the pain,
yeah,
is really good. Like the one movie that sticks out to me, which is a bit of a surprise, is I don't know if you've seen this movie called See You Soon. It's a
yes,
completely digital movie.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean that's
That
on
was
camera,
filmed.
and
That was
she
filmed
was
during
almost
the pandemic. Yeah.
lockdown. Yeah, that's right. And she was great on that. And like I've like like basically got like I'm on a webcam. So
Right,
I
right.
always knew that she could bring it, but again, with her sort of extending her range, I think I haven't seen her do action. It's great because she's also kind of small and demure as well. Same
Yeah,
with Basil Joseph. So if you have someone that's, I don't know, bigger, maybe you might be able to understand you're getting bullied by somebody, but you have somebody that Darshana who's quite small. So it's great casting choice, I think. And I thought, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing sort of more of her stuff because she's definitely one of the better actresses I think out there. And she's,
absolutely.
yeah, as I said, some of the scenes, especially the one I think when she finds out the revelation about she overhears the plan and she just
Yes,
goes into
and
like
you could just see the
what's happening
wheels
here.
turning in her head
Yes,
all the way
yeah,
home
yeah,
from the doctor's appointment. You could just see she just gives him these looks like, really? This couldn't be. Like you could
yeah,
just
yeah.
see she doesn't say a word
No,
until they
it's
get home,
fantastic.
until they're in the bedroom alone. She doesn't say a word, but though all of those scenes you can just tell, like you said, this character is smart and you can see her
Mhm.
working it all out. And she like needs to hear the guy say it. Like,
Exactly.
what else could this could be? What plan, right?
Correct.
Oh man. Yeah.
Really good. Yeah, spectacular. Yeah, so I think this movie. So, what do you think overall? I guess we'll get to sort of final thoughts and sort of to wrap it up a bit. What do you think overall? Because it does, we've talked about a lot of sort of positives, some of the issues about this movie. Like, where does it sort of land with you? Because it is one that sort of still runs in my head as to, yeah, I did really like this, but there's always that question about geez, should they be taking liberties like this for with domestic violence? Like, is it something we should be making fun of? Like, should we make it like,
Yeah.
violence is the best way to get through it? Like, attack domestic violence to domestic violence, fight fire with fire. Is it a good theme to really put?
I
Like,
mean,
I'm still
I,
sort of in a space where I'm thinking about it.
I know it's. I don't think it's an easy. I don't think there's an easy formula. And I,
No.
all right, I don't want to bring things down, but my husband had a cousin that went
Mm,
missing that we later learned was emotionally abused by her husband. She was trying to divorce him. Her body has
mm,
never been found. Okay, so domestic violence is real, but it can't. The way to reach the point of this movie is not just that Basil Joseph's Ragesh was an evil person. It was
no.
also the point of the film is that literally no one in her life spoke up for her except for her brother.
Yeah.
Everyone else expected her to just endure this life with this evil guy, endure being hit. And so it's showing not just this empowerment of this woman, but it's also condemning every single, this is by us laughing at everyone. It
Mm,
it's and you think about the reach that this is a huge hit movie. Like it's
correct.
how do you get everyone in the room to watch this film?
Yeah.
The older generation who is assuming, well, you just have to stay in any marriage, and how dare you can't disgrace our family by divorcing no matter how bad it is. How can you reach
No.
all of that audience, right? And I agree with you, like it is really a fine line though to have a movie about domestic violence, and it's so dark in for
It
half
is.
an hour, but in a way
Really
I
is.
was just like, okay, this movie is not made for me. It's not made for
Yeah.
me sitting in
Correct.
my comfortable Western Colorado whole
Yeah.
existence, right? It's made for a home audience in Kerala that needs to hear this message. And how are you going to get
Mm,
them in the room to hear it? And
correct.
how to really show how bad her life is. You can't just have one slap and then the
No.
kick. right? It's not going. You're not. And I'm like, I'm sold with one slap, right? But
Of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not the audience that needs to see this is
No,
her whole life and she has no escape and nothing has changed and no, like, it's like the audience has to live through that trauma with her to get to the point of the sympathy. Like, it's horrible that we have to say that, but again,
it's true.
this is male filmmakers, this is a male director putting this
Yeah,
together, but they're trying to reach a wide audience and
yeah,
with this message and make people think and make people laugh along the way, right? Like,
yeah.
the point is to make Basil Joseph not just evil but ridiculous.
Correct.
Absolutely,
Yep,
because
yep.
we're all laughing at him by the end,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep, yep, yep.
So, yeah, it does it get really close to the line. Would it work? And like if it was in America, it would be some sort of like tense thriller, and she would,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like she would have to
yeah.
devise
No,
this
we.
elaborate escape or whatever, right?
Yeah,
But
no,
the,
we. I think we had that. I don't know if you've seen the show The Maid.
oh, I've
That's
heard
got
about that.
very, yeah, no, very similar overtones. So she's basically yeah, she's in an abusive relationship and it's completely serious. It's
Right,
there's no laughing in that show. But no, I completely agree with you. I think what this movie does is, and one thing before I sort of talk about sort of what you mentioned, the brother you mentioned, I think they did a really smart job with that character because I was thinking about this for a while. I was like, okay, there was no really good
absolutely.
characters in this movie except for him, and he's not overtly good because he himself is also
No,
not able to speak up as much as he can because he is also a product
right,
of the system, right? So if you have someone out there who just sticks out like a thumb, like they're really pro, like the sort of professor showed us, you can't be like
yeah,
that because you're a hypocrite. So they show someone that's a little more balanced, who's a little bit like, I care for you, but I can't do anything about it because I'm a man and I'm also in the situation with everybody. I'll be scolded maybe if I, am too emotional towards you.
right,
So I think they did a really clever choice with his sort of character as well.
absolutely.
But I think you're exactly right. I think what this movie does is, and by having, Basil Joseph and Darshana and having this sort of young cast as well, the audience for this movie, I think, is obviously not myself, is obviously not yourself. We're not the audience for this. We are just movie, buffs and we love movies. That's why we sort of do this. And that's why we watch this sort of stuff as a sort of art piece. But I think this is an important movie to be shown to sort of the youth of,
Right,
India, I would say, probably Kerala because that's where this is marketed to, but across all of India, obviously with OTT and all that stuff. Because if you're someone that's in a situation like this and you watch this kind of movie, if it hits TV, for instance, or someone's referred you to watch it or something like that, and you're coming of that age when you're around that, it might start to challenge some of your perceptions
right.
around how
Well,
things are in your current world. So I think
right,
that's
and
really
showing
important.
the brother and showing how he was really an ally for her, right?
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
what are the practical things that you could do to help someone?
hmm,
Help find them a place to live,
yeah,
help find them a job,
correct,
help find them another way to make a living and to make a life for themselves so they can escape this situation. Because it's so often, um, people literally. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this never happens in the United States. It happens all the
mhm,
time, and
yeah,
people. That's why we have shelters here, and people will literally show up with their children and the clothes on their back and nothing, and then they have
yeah,
to just escape. And so, how do you create a new life for yourself from nothing? And
mm,
when someone has possibly separated you from your family and all the people that could have helped you. So,
definitely,
I think having the brother character was great. It wasn't a girlfriend, you know what I mean? It was
yeah, that's true.
interesting. Like, she didn't have a schoolmate or anyone that she could,
No,
hey, can I stay with you for a while? I thought it was great just showing how the brother
yeah,
practically helped her, made it possible for
yeah,
her to not go back there and to not come home under her parents' roof
mm.
where she would have had constant. Oh gosh, the scene where her mother comes to the
Oh my
hostel,
god, that scene.
and it's like,
Oof,
and then it's just like, well, I'll drop you and then I'll go home. And she's like the look of
what?
hope on her face, like maybe
I
my
know.
parents will let me come home and I can and help me get on my feet. No, they just wanted to take her right back to that horrible situation.
Yeah, and
So
you can tell how disingenuous her mother was because she was putting on the waterworks during that time, and then as soon as she says no, I'm not going back to stay with them, she changes the tone completely.
yeah,
So Yeah, no, there's actually a lot of sort of facets to sort of uncover. But you're right, I really did appreciate. Yeah, that's a great point about it not being sort of a girlfriend, because it is. Yeah, as I sort of mentioned, if you are watching this movie as a man or a male watching this movie, you could be like, I could be like that brother for somebody that's going through a hard time. It doesn't
Right,
have to be a girlfriend or something like that. And it also shows
right,
the sort of, again, the isolation Darshana is in, that she doesn't have any, or Jaya is in. She doesn't have
right,
any support around her at all. No friends, nobody will accept this. This is how society is, and you're trapped like this. So
right.
the only way out is sort of doing what she does. And again, how they get to that is interesting with the revenge plot. She uses her smarts. I appreciate it. And yeah, I just thought overall that's did a pretty good job of sort of covering off all aspects, I think.
I mean,
But
was the last scene where she fights all of his employees necessary? No. Was it
mm,
awesome? Yes.
yeah, I think that's actually that's a great way to put it, because yeah, it probably wasn't. They could have actually cut out that entire scene, the whole
Right.
fight scene, and they could have been like, it would have still had the same impact. But then we don't get a cool martial arts kung fu scene that this movie has
Right.
sort
With
of
that same
trademarked.
commentator. Like, I love that the director found this sports
Yes,
commentator.
oh, I love
Actually,
that.
yeah. I mean, I actually saw it like the first scene where she throws Basil Joseph around, really throws him around. Not the first kick, but the one where he's filming. Like,
Yeah,
they said they went through all these different things of editing and adding music and whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
it didn't really land. The director said he really saw how the sound can make or break a movie, because it wasn't until they
yes.
added in all the kind of kick sound effects and oof,
Hmm.
whatever, like all these different sounds, and then adding in the sports commentator
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
that just totally made that scene hilarious. And so again, the sports commentator comes back for the final
Yeah.
battle.
No, no, it's a real it's a real creative touch. It's a real nice touch, I think they did. Yeah, they have some this movie. Yeah, it has a lot of really deep themes, but it has a lot of really great scenes to also appreciate, like those ones. There's another hilarious scene before we sort of to wrap up. There's one other one where I think they're trying to find, like, I think his brother-in-law, or like, I can't remember what he actually was. Was he an uncle? I think he was a dad's brother. I don't know
Yeah,
who
it
he.
was like an uncle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, correct. He was an uncle, I think. But he basically says, like, you need to sing a song with her name in it. So then, like, the song he sings is the national anthem at the end.
Okay,
Just
see, I
thinking,
didn't really catch that.
yeah, no, no, I didn't. I was watching this I was watching this with my wife, and we're just like, wait a second, is this going to? Is like, she she mentioned, I think he's gonna sing the national anthem, the end of it, and I was like, wow, that is like, he's so socially awkward. He doesn't know any songs, so he sings the end of the national anthem. It's a great, it's just a great comedy, well written, and just, yeah. So yeah, this movie's, yeah, it's a good one to sort of watch. I think I would definitely recommend it. But
If you
yeah,
want to watch a similar film, if you enjoyed kind of this
yeah,
theme, again with women in martial arts, there's an English language film by an Indian from England, woman director. It's called Polite Society. And again,
okay,
it's
nice.
where the younger sister wants to save her older sister from getting into this horrible marriage, and the younger sister wants to be a stunt woman. So, and has her own
Oh,
YouTube channel. And so she knows all these martial arts. And so then there are some epic martial arts battles
yeah,
leading
nice.
up to the wedding and the rescue. So another fun, again, like it has a women's empowerment message, but
Yeah,
also super fun
nice.
martial arts in it as well.
Oh, that's a great one. The other one I wanted to sort of mention before was, I don't know if you've seen this movie. I think it's a Tamil or Telugu movie. It's called Gata Kushti.
I
Um,
didn't think so.
also seen. Also, I think that's also on Netflix. It stars Aishwarya Lakshmi in that, but she's essentially like a wrestler,
Mm,
like a traditional Indian wrestler, and she gets married to somebody who's in the same kind of, the same kind of
mm,
person, I guess, so oppressing the woman. And then one day she comes and she has to save him from a fight, and he gets embarrassed, and he has to deal with that sort of societal issue basically, and then he ends up like competing with her in a wrestling match to try and make it up to it or something like that in a women's one. It gets to all kinds of crazy. So it's got that comedy. That's why I think this movie combines those two movies together.
yeah,
One, The Great Indian Kitchen, the first half, and the second
yeah,
one is Got to
yeah.
Kush to You, basically. But that movie, I mean, I really enjoy that movie too. I think what I appreciate about this one, and this is what I like about the Malayalam film industry, it doesn't go back into let's have a happy ever after. Like,
Right. No.
like I was so scared at the end, like, oh no, are they going to get back together? This is going to be the worst ending in the world
Right.
if they do
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
But they
Exactly.
don't do that at all. Whereas in that movie, I mean, the crimes that he commits are not as bad as what Basil just commits in this one. Like he doesn't hit her, I think, but in terms of in this movie with the way he was acting at the start, there was no way that if they were going to
No,
get
we
back together,
don't.
I'd be so angry at this movie. If they had been like, we're going to get back together, I'd be
Absolutely.
like, this is a terrible message, you know. But so I'm happy they didn't do that, and I think that's a good decision. But I would trust the Malayalam film industry not to do that.
Right.
Yeah, but before we sort of wrap up, Melanie, thank you so much. This has been such an awesome conversation. I appreciate having you on. So much fun to talk about a movie like this, which I think has a lot of depth to it, but a lot of
Yeah.
comedy as well. So it just leads to a lot of conversations we can pull apart, plus a cast
Absolutely.
which we didn't expect. So this
Absolutely.
is, and of course, going to have you on much more. And I'm going to be on your channel. We're going to be doing this thing.
Yeah.
But before we finish, we do this thing called the IMDb scale, where I basically give you the rating of the movie, and you let
Okay.
me know: are you above the average, below, or do you agree? So the
Okay.
rating for this movie is 7.7 out of 10 after almost 4.4k reviews. Where does that sit? Are you on the same, below, or under?
So I hate having to rate movies with
Yeah.
stars, but I keep a diary on Letterboxd, which is
Yes.
a diary, and there's a 5-star scale.
Mhm.
And normally I'm a generous grader, I will be honest, but this one I think I gave it like 3 stars. So
Okay.
I guess 3 stars out of 5, it would be slightly under the 7.7
Yeah.
IMDb rating. So maybe more like a
Yeah.
7. So
Yeah.
um, I I think it's good, but again, some of the cultural humor is just so hard, I think, to
Mm.
translate. And so I can imagine this was
Yeah.
absolutely hilarious movie to a Kerala audience, whereas I felt like, okay, that scene wasn't that funny, right? Like, but there
Mm.
probably was something about it, like you say. I don't immediately recognize the lyrics to the Indian national
Yeah.
anthem, so I don't get it, right? Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
just things
Right.
that I just don't get. So, and it's not
Correct.
the fault of the filmmaker, but I'm just
No.
saying
No. No.
my own personal,
Of
my
course.
own personal rating of it.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Yeah. No, I think I'm probably a little bit above, like, so I'm probably about an 8, I would think. Like, I don't know, we like ratings too, but I think this is kind of a softer way to sort of be like, we don't have to give it
Yeah.
exactly. But I think I just give it a bit of, I think I give it the extra bump because of one, they didn't really give themselves that much to work with. I think one, they chose a challenging
Right.
topic to discuss. They included domestic violence
Absolutely.
and
That's
comedy.
true. Yeah.
Extremely tough. They tried to make it commercial. They didn't go super serious, like Great Indian Kitchen or any other serious
Right.
shows.
Right.
Then you take a cast which is relatively unknown. There's no Tulkar, there's no Torino Thomas in this
Right.
kind of roles.
Right.
You don't know what you're getting out of Basil Joseph. I'm not
Right.
like I'm sure the directors and everyone had great faith in him when they watched him, but coming in, you would have had some apprehension, being like,
But that
we've never
that's
seen
part of the
you.
magic of it is the surprise
Yeah.
of thinking you know who he is and then finding out, oh,
Yes.
he's not. That's part of. I
Exactly
think
right.
that's part of what's great about it. And I don't know that, say, a Niven Pauly or
Hmm,
someone like you say, a big name, could have done this role, right?
correct.
Would they have
Yeah.
agreed? No, who would agree to it, right? I mean,
No,
actually, it's amazing that Suraj agreed to do Great Indian
it
Kitchen,
is.
and kudos to him for doing that.
Yeah.
But most leading men, would they choose to be the butt of the joke like this entire movie
Yeah.
is? I don't know, so
I don't
anyway.
know. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if Fahad would have done it, Torino Thomas, even
Actually,
Paulie, as
Fahad
you
Basil
mentioned.
probably would, right?
Yeah, Faz might have. He doesn't mind. We've seen him in
He'll
Joji, right?
kill
He's
dogs
got a,
with sledgehammers, he'll do anything.
yeah, that's true. He'll do anything at this point.
But could they
So
afford
again,
him? No, probably
no, of
not.
course not.
No.
Yeah, again, the only really, I guess, stable part you have is probably Darshana in sort of her role because you know what you're getting from her, and she can carry it off. So I give her a lot of credit for sort of really doing something so bold, and it really paid off because it was a huge commercial hit. So I'll
Yeah.
probably give it a bit above just for the fact that they did all this. But yeah, again, thanks, Melanie. This was awesome. I really appreciated you having on for this specific movie. I'm so glad this is the first one we're covering together. But
The first
looking
of
forward to
many.
much
The
more.
first of
The
many,
first of
because I'm
many.
looking forward to having many more conversations with you on my channel and
Yeah,
on
of
your channel. And we should
course.
mention, we talked also about the film Jana Gana Mana, and that's going to
Yes,
be
of course.
on my channel. So you can see Amit and I discuss a more serious, intense
Yeah,
film. on my channel.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of this. We covered this week. We basically covered off Jana Gana Mana, which is the first lyrics of the national anthem, and then Jaya 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 Hey, which is the end of the anthem. I don't know how that
And
happened. This was not
see,
planned.
this is what's so
Like,
great because you're explaining to me, and I had no clue.
yeah, no. So this was not planned. We did not intend to this, but yeah, go check me out on Paradesi's channel. I'll leave all the links to her channel, everything
Right.
like that. If you're not subscribed by any chance, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you watch all the videos that she's done. It's awesome. Movies, reviews, reactions, Malayalam, Tamil, the whole lot. She does
Yep, all
everything.
of them.
Yeah. But it's a great time. But yeah, that'll sort of do it for us, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks everyone.
Thanks again, Amit.